starting off is why DTC is eating the world, the future of brands. So it's been a really exciting year for DTCs. Just last week, online jewelry retailer Brilliant Earth went public. Warby Parker and Allbirds have filed to go public very recently. Thanks to Shopify for sharing some numbers, but by 2022, the number of DTC e-commerce customers will hit an all-time high of 103 million. And Brooklinen is really at the center of this trend. They pulled off an amazing feat of managing this skyrocketing growth while remaining profitable. So today we have AdWeek's Chief Brand Officer, Danny Wright, who is going to sit down with Brooklinen CEO Rich Fulop. So I'm going to invite them to come for a conversation and understand a little bit about what's going on with DTCs and why they're taking over the world.
Good to see everybody. Let me first say that was not a New York welcome. Can you do this properly, please? Please.
Thanks.
You are in the presence of greatness, and by that I mean the CEO of Brooklinen, Fulop.
Thanks.
How you doing today, bud?
Fantastic. It's good to be here. IRL. Haven't done this in a long time.
It is. Show of hands. Who's first IRL? Good. Yeah. And I produce events. Okay, so we have a lot to talk about. We're going to dig into DTC, advertising practices, branding, the whole thing. But how about first Brooklinen? What's the quick story? Why? What problem were you trying to solve? And what's the key to your success so far?
Thanks. So Brooklinen is a luxury home goods brand based here in New York, in Brooklyn, New York. So we started with sheets. I founded the company.
Shout out to Brooklyn. It's the bridge.
Nice. We started the business 8 years ago at this point. I started with my wife in our small apartment, just kind of slogging in at night. And the reason is because we identified a category kind of by accident where there was no real strong branding and good branding. And as millennial consumers ourselves, that's how we shopped, and we just couldn't find something that we could relate to and really wanted in the category. So we really just thought, why not just make it ourselves, what we envision, and work backwards? Start with the product, great product, exactly what we're looking for, and then refine the brand to speak to the customer that we are, and that we thought there were others like us, and we did quite a bit of research to figure it out. But it's been a long journey of slow building along the way and being very responsible about it.
Yeah, I never knew. I mean, either you go to a nice hotel and you're like, where do you get these sheets?
Yeah.
Or you go stay at a really wealthy friend's house and you're like, where do you get these sheets?
Or you stay at a crappy place and you're like, what are these sheets?
What are these?
Kind of like, it's exactly. A big spectrum between the two. And that's
well, now we have a name.
Exactly. That's what we wanted to kind of leave our mark there in the category.
Well done, sir. Well done. All right, I wrote some notes down because this is kind of a big story here. So the growth of DTC, obviously you all know, is well documented, right? 40% of e-commerce growth is attributable to DTC. 2 out of 5 purchases are brand direct now. And at AdWeek, we talked to the CMO of Just Fab, and what she talked about was the opportunity to build this really interpersonal relationship with your customer. Now, I happen to be a customer. We now know each other.
Great.
Talk to me about the success of DTC. Why is it so popular?
I think it has to do with building a relationship with the customer, and DTC specifically, like online DTC, there are a lot of tools out there to build that bridge and relationship with the customer. So what brands they like, what shows they watch, what movies they like, who their friends are in their networks, and you can use all this passive data to really figure out who your customer is and what they want. And when you're creating a brand, you really have to have a strong thesis in terms of who is it for? What are you serving? And there's no brand really that fits for absolutely everyone out there. So you just have to really know what you're keying in on and who you're talking to and really speak their language to them. And we worked really, really hard to do that from early days to really carve a niche. And we didn't raise any funding from the get-go. We bootstrapped the business for nearly 4 years. And really our model was if we make a great product and if we take good care of our customers and do the customer service ourselves in the early days, hopefully they'll tell one other person, and then it becomes viral. And actually, your customer acquisition cost goes down and down and down because those are technically free customers and free orders that come afterwards. So it's actually the most organic and most efficient way to grow the brand. We never did raise lots of money and spray and pray approach. It was very, very tactical from the beginning.
So what we should do when we look at LTVs is we should add in the referential effect.
You can. There's a lot of different ways to look at it. I mean, as far as LTV goes, we have a really, really great retention program. And as we've grown our catalog over the years, so we started with sheets, and the vision for us in day one was one perfect product, and it's just like our white sheets in one fabric. But as you talk to the customers, they want more, and they kept coming back. Where do I get pillows? Where do I get blankets? Where do I get towels? Where do I get robes? And it was just an opportunity for us to build a stronger bond and insulate that relationship more and more and more with them. So it was about just listening to the customer as much as possible. And the strongest brands can do that and continue to evolve and stay close to the customer.
Well, I'm curious how you're doing that. You said you bootstrapped it.
Yep.
So how many credit cards did you and your wife max out? She's here, by the way. Shout out to Mrs. Brooklinen. But as the famous Capital One tagline is, what's in your wallet?
Yep.
What's in your tech stack? How are you
geez.
getting all this customer data?
I think like everything in that room back there is probably we have one of each. I mean, that's something that's changed quite a bit in terms of like the business and operating the business. As the founder and CEO, I used to be very much in the weeds doing those things myself. It starts with social media. It starts with email and retention, having good programs, and just building the funnel. And a lot of the tools just allow for better segmentation. And what I tell, we have quite a big product team now that works on our site, and all of the bells and whistles that goes with the company, and the strategy, I should say. Really, we're trying to get to segments of one, and we have the tech built and the data to do it. So I know that if you are with the tools that enable our site, if you're on Google and you're looking for the best plush towels, if that's your search query, there is a capability for us to make our store cater to you and just show, sheets are our hero product, but we can show you everything we want in terms of towels, but that's because we know what you want and what you're searching for, and we use the tools to do that. So a lot of A/B testing goes into that, and a lot of manpower, horsepower goes into making it happen. That's what gets more complex over time. I think when you're building a brand, and like I said, we've been doing this for nearly 8 years, and there is always low-hanging fruit in every channel, almost in every category. It gets really, really hard at scale to keep repeating and growing and making the same tactics work.
You have a finance background, right?
I do, yeah.
Yeah. How has that helped, or maybe even hindered what you're trying to do?
I kind of have an untraditional background for that as a founder, but the finance, my wife and I launched the business when I was in business school getting my MBA. So I used a lot of those tools and resources as almost like a think tank and professors and whatnot to try and get us going and off the ground. I think the most important thing was like getting comfortable with accounting and understanding our costs, and like that's what kept us in business. So cash flow, cash is king, and you're spot on with credit cards. And many were maxed out, many had 90 days to pay and go on from there, and we stretch those out as much as possible. But understanding your unit economics are super important, your customer acquisition costs, and make sure you're making money. I think ultimately there are a lot of beautiful brands out there, but to be like a long-lasting, everlasting brand, and one that really transcends, you got to have a good business, good unit economics, and you got to have money to prove it at the end of the day and be a business that makes money, because things change in marketing environments, customer sentiment change, people grow up, people change. You just have to be able to really understand your business when the music stops.
I love the fear and the crisis management. How many entrepreneurs out there? Show of hands. We got a couple. I mean, don't you feed off of that? Oh my God, what am I going to eat tomorrow? I have to make a choice between lights or feeding dog.
Yeah.
But that really helps to kind of drive the motivation to get it right. Now, with a finance background, you have built a beautiful, beautiful product. So where does that come from? Is that your eye?
No, it was both my wife Vicky and us. We have very similar tastes, and we have very similar interests, and we like to think we're at the forefront of trends. And it's understated, honestly. Like the whole mission statement was simplicity over here, and make it straightforward and like an easy decision for everyone and obvious. When you look at the price afterwards, that should be the slam dunk. And you never lead with price in these. You should lead with quality and your value proposition. Ultimately, to have a really strong brand, you have to have a really strong value proposition that relates to the customer, that really hooks them in and says, oh, that's what I've been looking for, and that means a lot to me. If you can't sell that, like it doesn't matter how cheap or expensive it is or anything else, like you have to have something that's desired.
And that sounds like one of those kind of like core tenets that will transcend upon whether you're a DTC brand or maybe you're just a traditional brand. Mm-hmm. What are some of the other things that you think carry through trying to build both types of businesses?
in terms of tactics, or
Yeah, just like core tenets. You know, you're a founder. You've got a finance background.
Yep.
You're also a marketer
Yeah.
and a designer.
Yeah.
So some of the things that you have learned along the way. It's not a room full of DTC brands, a lot of brands here, but there's also some traditional marketers that would want to understand what are some of the core things that you must do. You started with the customer. Give me a few.
Yeah, so it starts and ends with the customer. But one of my mentors is Scott Galloway, who I'm sure a lot of people know over here. And in his brand strategy class at Stern, he has this thing called the clock model, and it's in 3 quadrants, and it's pre-purchase, the purchase, and post-purchase. And pretty much his bottom line is you have to be amazing at least one of these. Rarely is anyone amazing at all 3. So pre-purchase would be marketing, branding, really, really nice. Purchase would be like the product and the experience, and post-purchase would be customer service. And there's brands out there, if it's Nordstrom or whatnot, that are really famous for like customer service, and that's really, really valuable. And we thought with our resources, what we had at the time, which was very little, if not anything, the best thing we could do is just be ourselves and be authentic and give good customer service. So we concentrated on that piece while having a great product and kind of worked backwards. Once you get money and get the flywheel going, then the marketing becomes a little easier and it kind of feeds off itself, and you have more channels and you build the funnel. You got to have good service and you got to pick at least one, most 2 of the 3, I think.
Right.
And the third one's got to be good, but you really got to focus on those. And I think that's like the strongest tenet that I always kind of leaned on, is to make sure I know I'm providing good service and a good product to my customers. And I think that transcends almost any business.
No, you are, and your retention rate is probably quite emblematic of that,
Yeah.
me included. All right, so you've got DTC television spending. Are you doing a bit of that now?
Yeah.
Okay, so we covered this at AdWeek, that there was $3 billion spent on TV in 2019. 2020, that contracted by almost 50%.
Mm-hmm.
What is your mix now, TV to direct performance advertising, and what do you recommend for others?
So I'll say that as CEO of the company, I consider everything to be performance marketing, and that's something, spending your own money and every dime from the get-go. Like, I don't care if something has a bad ROAS, I still want to know what it is, and I want to know what's coming back. And we think of our whole funnel as one thing. It's not on channel by channel basis. So some, like TV, are less efficient, and some, like search, are more efficient. It ultimately, there's no one channel that does all the hard work. People see us in subway ads, they'll see us on TV, they see us on Instagram, they do a Google search, okay, there. There's multiple touches on that, so that builds over time on that. In terms of TV, it's growing. I would say probably 10% or so. We have a very diversified funnel, some 30 channels on at any time. Facebook, Instagram never really been more than 25, 30% of it. So with recent modifications and whatnot, again, building stability and thinking long term, these aren't devastating blows, because the ground shifts all the time in all these channels. So you really have to be very restructured about that in terms of how you think about it. And bootstrapping, for new entrepreneurs, bootstrapping is the best. It's really painful in the early days. It's really hard, and like you say, you don't know how you're going to pay rent, or you're eating a couple of noodles, but you really understand your business, and you actually reap the benefits in the long run, because by not raising early, you actually retain more equity. So if you do happen to find a successful business, it's very beneficial, and you understand your business and the customer even more from the get-go. So bootstrap as long as you can is what I would say.
And I think Scott said in his intro that you've attained profitability.
Always. We had to be. That's why. So that's something that's always been differentiated, and people kind of look at us like, really? But it's also something that's created a lot of interest in the investor universe for us, because we've been able to grow sizably and remain profitable. It's just really understanding your unit economics and where the pinch points are. So profit margins on the product, I always knew kind of where they needed to be, but I always knew they could get better over time. So that would be something that I would press on later. But I really focused on building a really, really good structure, and then tightening screws over the last 5 years or so.
Well, I think the coolest part is, so we talked about your TV advertising. We see what you're doing in performance marketing. But the other thing is guerrilla marketing, which is my favorite kind. I come from the music business. I ran street teams. That's the best, right? That's when you get immediate, real IRL feedback. So you're doing some of that now. You opened a store in Williamsburg, which, by the way, it's 10 stops on the train. Go take a look. It's gorgeous. And you have others in the works. So let's talk about your strategy for having physical retail, and then let's dip into some of the stuff that you're selling in the store, which goes way beyond linens.
Yeah, totally. So we have one store, which we opened January 2020. I guess.
Good timing.
Yeah, great. And we had many plans. There was press releases. We're going to open many more, which we still have plans to. Unfortunately, we had to shelve those for a year until now. So we do have 5 more leases signed. So we'll be at 6 stores in Q2 next year, and they're all over the country in new markets. So we have a list of kind of every market that we want to be in, and then we just kind of know the location, where our customer is, and the hope is to provide new experiences so people can actually, the people that struggle with touch and feel of it, they can actually cross that threshold and come see us in stores. We get that instant feedback from them. We hold a lot of events in our store as well. We tried that with our pop-up that was in Soho before. And it worked really, really well to generate buzz, traffic, and different kinds of people coming in. So it's something that we'll do a lot more in programming. You also have local advertising, which comes into play at those. So local radio, local TV, local out-of-home. These are all net new for us as we stand up in a different market. So that becomes more complex. And then what totally gets skipped from out of eyesight is the complexity of operating a multi-retail unit operation. It's really tough. Yeah, but we're excited about it, and that's a big growth level for us. Our business is near 98, 97% Brooklinen.com, so DTC and US. So international, huge opportunity for us for expansion and to reach new customers and be where they are, because we do well here in New York. We also find that with our stores, it's actually a hyper-local business because it's residential. People, for their house, there's a lot of high-rise apartment units. So most of our transactions in Williamsburg actually come within a mile or so of the store for people who live there from a billing zip code standpoint. So that's also more info that we get in order to adapt our strategy.
Well, actually, I'm going to come back to what your customer profile is, but I also want to dig into what else is in that store. Mm-hmm. Because you have a lot of great products in there that people may not immediately associate with the brand. Yeah,
so we sell, first of all, fundamental to it is it's not a showroom. With our product specifically and where our brand is positioned, people are really excited to come in.
Mm-hmm.
They're really excited.
It's a permanent store, not a pop-up.
It's a permanent store. Oh yeah, we're there for a while. And they want to take it home and try it immediately because there's a lot of hype that comes with it, and then they're considering, they want to take it home. So I never believed in the showroom model where you ship it to them in a day or two later. You kind of miss that entire journey in terms of all the excitement because you want them to come home and then you want them to talk about it immediately afterwards. So we carry all the inventory in the store. So we have our entire catalog in the store. We also have some third-party products that we sell. So we have a part of our site called Spaces, which is a third-party marketplace. So other like-minded brands that accompany in categories that we don't play in, it really completes the image. And it also comes from talking to our customers because we'd see on Instagram comments, we'd see in our store who makes that alarm clock on the night table, or or the slippers by this bedside that were just props, and we're like, oh, this is more about the lifestyle and the brand that we built. People want to go deeper in it. So we have third-party brands, and we're actually launching an entirely new product in one of our categories, which will be a sub-brand that's net new that's going to show in our store. So we'll have a shop-in-shop as well type of experience.
I did want that clock though.
Yeah, the clocks do really well, actually. You'd be surprised.
I did. I had to turn my phone off last night. Long story, nobody's business. But because I turned my phone off, I didn't think I could set an alarm to get up for today. Mm-hmm. So I was like, man, I wish I had that clock in the Brooklinen store. Okay, so let's talk about international.
Yep.
That is a tremendous opportunity for you. The founder of Heston's, everybody know Heston's, the mattress, got a checkerboard pattern on it. They said that you spend a third of your life in bed. Yep. So why not invest? You have a product that is worth every single penny, but it's not inexpensive. Mm-hmm. What is your kind of mantra or ethos that you think you're telling people to help convince them to invest in their sleep? Yeah, so I think it has to do with making sure they have all the information in front of them. So historically in our categories, people were very ripped off, for lack of a better thing to say. The markups were crazy, and it was mostly due to licensing deals. So the predominant players historically were players in the fashion world or whatever that had licensing done in the bedding category. From a production standpoint, that's actually it's the same cost, but you pay a premium for that licensing deal. Mm-hmm. When you strip that out and you work directly with the factories, and that's part of having a really tight supply chain, we can actually control that and control the pricing. So we are able to offer, in many cases, a better product at a better price. So it's a matter of communicating that and explaining to people. Because like us, when we started,
we came at this, we didn't know anything about textiles or the category. We were self-taught on this. We knew, like, I like the sheets to be, I sleep really hot at night, so I want them to be lightweight and cool and crinkly and have all these different sensations. So we reverse engineered because we heard a lot of people looking for that. Tastes are different internationally, though, so that's something that's a big factor for us in terms of our core product and our colors of towels and sheets and robes. Like, those are workhorses, tried and true. But a big part of our business is actually the more fashionable stuff. So that would be prints and designs. And we have like a very intense calendar of drops that are every other month pretty much in terms of limited edition. Those tastes change. And also in other markets, bed sizes are different. So it's actually, people are similar in fashion, but beds are different in almost every country in Europe. That's an operational challenge, not insurmountable, but it's a challenge. So you have to build the brand and build the operation at the same time, which is more complex, larger states.
The good news is you've obviously invested in your tech stack.
Yep.
You live by the data, which is a smart way to live nowadays, and I know you're going to make the right decision.
Thanks.
We're about at time, but give me maybe the first territory ex-US that you feel like you can really dominate in, and then B, give me a bold prediction for 2022 and where you think this is going to wind up.
I mean, just e-com in general, or for us?
For you.
For us, well, we have aggressive plans in terms of retail and international. Those are the two. Without like giving too much away, it's easier to.
We're off the record.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sure. It's easier to execute in countries that are closer and speak English for us, because that limits the amount of like customization. If a market like Japan is incredibly complex, where it is and the way they shop on devices and zip codes, postal code, like all that stuff is very different, and we have to start from scratch there. In Canada, UK, Australia, New Zealand, like these, the conventional norms in shopping is very, very similar to here, with the caveat that mobile is much more prevalent in all of those. So in our world, most people, and I would assume most is for most brands around here, is most discovery is done on mobile, most transactions done on desktop. Yeah. Internationally, it's mostly all mobile, pretty much, on both. So that's also a change from like a UX standpoint and a technology standpoint to go on. So bold prediction for us, will be in 4 other countries by the end of next year. Excellent. And 6 stores.
Well, wherever you are, make sure you become a fan. I am. Shout out to Commerce Next and doing this in real life. As an event producer, I know how extraordinarily difficult it is to pull this off, and I think they've done a great job. Shout out to you guys for being brave enough to be here.
We got a promo code.
And you know what? We have a promo code.
Yeah, he's been hyping it up. So Commerce Next 15, anyone in the room. And tell your friends, please. Yeah.
Tell your friends. Tell everybody. The founder and CEO of Brooklinen, Rich Fulop. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, guys.